It was recently my birthday. Thank you, I'm a walking husk. It was an okay birthday, I guess. I had a pizza, the Richard Special, pepperoni, bacon, hamburger, and mushrooms. I also had a piece of cake. It was basically Black Forest cheesecake. All in all, it was a pretty good time. I got a gift from my good friend Aaron. Aaron's got his own channel where he does all kinds of esoteric stuff, so go give him a follow. He got me a Steam game, a game I never thought I'd play, something that I was interested in, but cautiously interested in. Aaron got me Shining Resonance Refrain. This is a modern Shining game. In fact, it's so modern, it's the most recent Shining game. Never mind that it's from 2014, which is 9 years ago. Is it me or is time speeding up? I, for one, welcome the day when time's vortex consumes us all. So I played Shining Resonance Refrain, and I finished it. I didn't 100% it, but I definitely killed the end boss. Prior to this, the only recent Shining game that I played was Shining Arcus, I think that's what it was called. It's basically a Shining fighting game. But being modern Shining, you don't have any of the characters you want, so don't get too excited. Although I would love to play a fighter with classic Shining characters. Can you imagine Frank versus Zappa? I know I can. So anyway, let's talk about Shining Resonance Refrain. Shining Resonance Refrain is an action RPG brought to you by Mediavision. Yes, Mediavision, the Wild Arms people. But I'm afraid to inform you that there are no cowboy hats in this game. I'm so sorry. The game was originally released in 2014 as Shining Resonance, but it was re-released in 2017 as Shining Resonance Refrain. The game's art was brought to life by Tony Taka. This guy has been responsible for, I think, all of the modern Shining games' art, and his artistic abilities are truly top-notch. He used to be an eroge artist, so get ready for some very beautiful female characters. That being said, even most of the male characters are very beautiful. The game has 3 composers, Junpei Fujita, Hitoshi Fujima, and Evan Call. Fujita and Fujima did the music in Wild Arms XF, a game that I played a lot of back in the day, but I can't remember a single piece of music from it. They also did the music for Suikoden Tierkreis, which I absolutely hated. Evan Call's Wikipedia page says that he worked on dozens of projects from all across the spectrum of games, anime, TV, and more. As you should already be aware of, Sonic Co. Limited / Camelot Software Planning did not work on this game. This was after Camelot went independent and were seemingly snatched up by Nintendo to do Mario sports games until the end of time. There's no Takahashi brothers, no Yoshitaka Tamaki, no Masahiko Yoshimura, no Hiroshi Kajiyama, no Motoaki Takanouchi. And if you are an old school Shining fan, that fact is very apparent. The story of Shining Resonance Refrain revolves around a young man named Yuma Ilvern who is currently possessed. No, possessed isn't the right word. He's currently inhabited by the Shining Dragon. Turns out that there are good dragons and bad dragons. The bad dragons are led by the bad people who want to do bad things, and it is your job to stop them. The evil empire, because of course that's what they're called, is waging war with the good guys of Astoria. Everyone has dragons, but the empire has more dragons. Their princess, Excella, has 3 dragons, but wants 4 dragons. So she tells Yuma and crew that she's going to come and take his dragon away. Yuma is joined by a host of colorful characters including Sonia, a powerful swordswoman and princess of Astoria. Kirika, she's an elf and a healer, because of course she is. Rinna, she's an elf and a mage, because of course she is. Agnum, he's very red. Leston, grumpy elf guy. The bad guy list is Excella, fan favorite grumpy knight princess who has a bunch of dragons, and there are a bunch of other guys. The story moves forward with Yuma trying to figure out why he is inhabited by the Shining Dragon, Excella trying to capture the dragon, the good guys trying to save Astoria from the Empire, and the Empire trying to take over Astoria. There's a lot of exposition between the characters that is meant to flesh out the story and the world. Emphasis on meant to. Gameplay in Shining Resonance Refrain is very Tales-like. Imagine a C-tier Tales game with D-tier Persona mechanics sprinkled on top and then underbaked. The game can be boiled down to a modern-day action RPG with quests, crafting, and dating. The game does everything, for better or for worse. Worse, it's for worse. Battle is fine, the combat is not incredible, it's not unique, it's just a solid third-person kind of mid-paced slashy-dashy fighting system. There are a few subsystems that give the battle and the combat a bit more heft, though. The first is the band system. Your characters are all, basically they're like musical mages, and they each have a weapon that doubles as a musical instrument. Agnum's axe doubles as a guitar, Excella's lance doubles as a flute, Sonia's sword and shield doubles as a violin. It's a bit silly, but let's just go with it. Characters can learn various band sessions that allow them to bless the party with various effects like a bonus to critical hits, bonus to defense, bonus to attack, etc. The next system is the Dragon Transformation ability. Yuma has the ability to transform into the Shining Dragon during battle. For the first part of the game, this ability is not very good. You turn into a slow, lumbering dragon who can sometimes get confused and turn against the rest of your party. You will eventually encounter a plot device that will get rid of this detriment to allow you to smack around enemies with utter abandon without worrying about smacking around your own characters. And you will be smacking around a lot of enemies. Shining Resonance Refrain suffers from one of the worst cases of too many dumb fucking quests I have ever seen. You will be constantly doing quests. Every time you fucking blink, there will be a new quest. Finish a quest and unlock 7 new quests. Move the plot at all and see 14 new quests appear. And these are truly awful, time-devouring quests. I swear to God that some of these quest goals are find 20 of this mat, fight this creature that is 50 levels stronger than you, defeat 100 of this monster. And in traditional fashion, most of these rewards are absolute garbage. Some potions, some money that you can earn in 2 to 3 fights. But sometimes you do get a super rare item or crafting material. Yes, the game does have crafting. You can craft items called aspects that will give your crew various effects. Some are bog standard, like plus 10% strength. Some are essential, like the ability to steal items from enemies. And some should be basic gameplay effects, like benched characters gaining experience. I spent a good 10 hours of this game hunting monsters, collect items, braving bonus dungeons, and crafting aspects so my benched characters could gain experience. And you either need to do this, or you need to spend time grinding your characters. There is a point late in the game where 2 characters in particular need to be in battle on their own, and I wasn't using either of these characters. So, by the time I got to this battle, I had spent so much time trying to craft these items that I still wasn't prepared for this fight and had to grind anyway. What an absolutely boneheaded decision. Who came up with this idea? What were they thinking? This being said, dungeon crawling for mats was probably the most fun I had of this entire game. You have access to something called the Grimoire. This is basically a system that allows you to access optional dungeons. Furthermore, these optional dungeons can be enhanced with a number of bookmarks that will change enemies, skills, experience, etc. These optional dungeons are very short, so they are good for grinding mats, gaining experience, collecting money, etc. You can even use them to hunt down rare monsters for some of the more esoteric quests. The actual gameplay of this game, when divided from the story beats and plot points, is actually pretty decent. So yeah, the most asinine part of this game is indeed the story beats and the plot points. Almost all of the characters are somewhere between average and supremely dull. As mentioned earlier, there's some Persona-esque stuff in here, and that stuff is the dating system. And goddamn, the characters are annoying enough on their own during the story, let alone additional dating sections. The story sections are boring, but that's the main draw. There's a push and pull with the bad guys and the good guys. The dating sections are stuffed with unending waffle between the main character, who is not particularly interesting, and a host of characters that are as captivating as wet paper bags. And you have to date a lot. Each dateable character has loads of standard dating sections, but you need to do X of these before the advanced dating sections unlock. And then you have to do 4 or 5 of those. It's just so much. It's too much. About 30 hours in, I straight up started powering through text without reading it. Then 60 hours into the game, after I finished the final bosses, I still didn't have a single 100%ed character, let alone 8 of them. So I just straight up uninstalled the game. I wasn't going to play another 60 hours just to date some doe-eyed, vacuum-brained anime thoughts. Now, one of the things that differentiates the Refrain version of this game from the standard version is an additional mode that allows you to recruit 2 additional characters. 2 characters that are very important to the story. And the fact that you can put them in your party right away at the start of the game completely destroys the immersion. These 2 characters being your party now does nothing to the story. There has been no update to the story to explain them being in your party. And one of these characters is Excella, a primary antagonist of the game for like 2/3 of the entire story. So you get to recruit this character, but she's the villain, but she's in your party. Cutscenes show her verbally destroying you, but then you enter combat and she's in your team. There's no explanation at all, and it is incredibly confusing. The game's graphics are fine. Tony Taka's designs transfer well into the PS3 era of graphics. Some of the designs, like Yuma, are pretty terrible, with some of them like Excella being quite frankly iconic. Excella has gone on to be an amazingly popular character, a character that is more popular than the game that she's from. I haven't seen levels of devotion this strong for a fictional character in a bad game since the Neptunia titles. Oh yeah, and the soundtrack? Fuck it. It's 90% generic limp panpipes arranged by school children. I literally almost ascended to higher levels of the void while listening to this OST. In fact, I haven't used a single track from the OST for this video. Nail my eardrums to the cross and send me to hell. I don't want anything to do with this OST ever again. As you can probably tell, I am not a huge fan of this game, but at the same time, I am almost a fan of this game. A lot of the game isn't necessarily bad, it's just middle of the road. So much of this game is just out of reach of being good. Almost every step comes up short. The art is very well done, Tony Taka is very talented, but the designs are generic. I am sure a talented man like himself could have pulled out better designs. The combat is decent, yes it's basic, but it's still pretty fun. But it's just steps away from being great. Adding a few more bells and whistles like a real combo system, proper magic spells, and an actual reason to swap characters would have been a lot more fun. The story and characters are both deeply flawed, but I believe with a bit of work they could have been a lot more coherent. Cut out the dating system altogether and devote the extra time to the actual story. I think it could have been alright. Yeah, definitely 100% cliche, but cliche doesn't have to be bad. Dragon Quest XI is cliche, but that game's story is fully serviceable. The music? Okay, the music is just absolutely terrible. There's no servicing that. And for a game that has magical musical themes running throughout it, the fact that the music is so terrible is really depressing. Also, Trying to compare this game to the older Shining games is just fruitless. Other than the name Shining, there is nothing tying this to the games of old. Some of the older new Shining games had some tangentially related topics and ideas, but this one just doesn't. Remember Shining Force Neo? There were characters like Max and Adam who were named after original Shining Force characters, and they brought back Yoshitaka Tamaki to do the monster designs. There's nothing like that in Refrain. Shining Resonance Refrain tries its best to be something original, but it also has to play the part of a sequel to a beloved series. These ideas are both at odds with each other, and neither is done particularly well. It suffers from generic gameplay, repetitive quests, cliched characters, and boring music. With a bit more time in the oven, the game might have actually been alright, and the fact that it received a remake with none of these issues addressed is truly damning. I was interested in finally playing a modern Shining title, but Shining Resonance Refrain only confirms that without Camelot, you can't have a Shining game. Ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this video more than I enjoyed the game. I was really hoping that I'd like it, but oh well. I think I'll load up Shining in the Darkness and finally finish that one next. I love Pyra. If you enjoyed this video and you want to support RPG Fortress, here are some things that you can do to help us out. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, share, join our Discord, join our Patreon, buy a shirt, invoke the words of wizardry, convoke the sorcery, invert the stars in the sky, summon the creature, and wash behind your ears. I've been Richard for RPG Fortress, thank you for watching, and don't forget to hug a cat. Goodbye for now.